Hey guys, I'm back once again to review 5 RPGs I really need to talk about. This time we've got 3 JRPGs, 1 upcoming indie RPG and 1 surprise at the end. So let's begin! Let's start with Sea of Stars. I'm not sure if I'll get to play this upcoming indie RPG when it comes out. Apparently it'll be released by the end of August this year. So I played the demo on the Switch and was a bit disappointed it wasn't available on PS4, at least not in my country. Even though it was very short, barely 1 hour long, it left me with a lot to say. So I'm here to tell you my first impressions of it. Sabotage Studio is making it, having previously released The Messenger. These guys are from Quebec in Canada from what I read. Anyway, enough background. The game's a turn-based RPG and like 99 out of 100 indie RPGs, it's inspired by the 16-bit era. The first thing I want to say is that it looks absolutely beautiful. The graphics and the world design is gorgeous and these sprite animations I fell in love with. Part of the soundtrack is being handled by Yasunori Mitsuda, the legend himself, but my favorite theme was the boss battle theme by the main composer Erick Brown. More on that in a bit. Now, I don't think this demo is how the final game will start. You select between the guy whose power is based on the sun or the girl powers based on the moon. I don't know yet if choosing either will impact the story, so the demo throws you in with no explanation whatsoever in this area. Apparently the 2 protagonists and their friend are looking to get to Wraith Island, but not much is known about them. You get to explore the first area and learn that you need the action button to climb up and down or even jump between platforms. Later you encounter the combat. It plays in turns so far with only 3 playable characters. I'm not sure if the turn order is decided at random, but that little number on the enemy's bar indicated how many turns are left for them to act. The rest on that bar are their weaknesses, but they can change after every turn they take. The same goes for bosses. Your characters have the standard menus, including skills exclusive to each of them. Combos can be used once you build up combo points by attacking or receiving damage. I never got to use them with regular enemies, only with this epic boss, with that epic battle theme I mentioned at the beginning. Apparently, the whole party levels up, so experience gained is an individual. I'm okay with that for now. I like this combat, it's easy to understand, doesn't take you long to get the basics of it, and it's very enjoyable. Exploration here requires some puzzle doing. Here the graphics blew me away even more as I was trying to find some crystals to activate the door to the boss. No random encounters exist, thankfully. You can see the enemies around, but like in Chrono Trigger, it's hard to avoid them when roaming around. There was a camp in this dungeon where you can talk to your allies, cook, get a small story from this girl, and switch between protagonists. Not sure if that'll be an important feature later on. So the gameplay was great here, like the controls, barely anything to criticize. However, in this demo, in this dungeon, they included a somewhat annoying fishing game that was mandatory. I really don't like when mini-games or side quests are forced on you. It took me a few tries to catch what I was supposed to catch and controls weren't that great. My other gripe with this game is that I thought the main characters were kinda bland. They barely said a word, most of the dialogue was carried by their friend, and the pirates that take them to the ruins, the only dungeon in the demo. I hope this changes in the final product and we get some cool development, or at least interesting personalities out of either, because they aren't silent protagonists or anything. Overall, I really liked what little I played. Obviously the graphics and the music were by far the highlights for me, and the combat was pretty darn good. I hope the story hooks me up if I ever get to play the full game, because I really think that's the only thing that didn't stand out that much in the demo. Next is Fairy Fencer F, Refrain Chord. This game was released today, that's right, I got a code from Idea Factory, and it's a sequel to this game. Nobody ever asked for a sequel, but they made it anyway. Is it any good? We'll see. Fang and company continue their adventures trying to collect Furies to revive the goddess. Furies are weaponized beings that characters like Fang, called Fencers, can fuse with to become more powerful. The game takes place in the exact same city, fighting against the evil corporation Dorfa again, who's trying to collect Furies to revive the evil god, known as the Vile God. However, the mysterious Al appears one day alongside 2 idols, Floor and Glace. Well, I guess it's pronounced Glaze in English, but guess what? This game does not have an English dub. Anyway, Al and Fleur will join Fang, while Glace or Glaze will join Dorfa with the goal to create artificial fencers and fairies. You get where this is going, so let's move on. The story is decent, still with its memorable characters, their dumb puns and fun comedy. You'll definitely get a few laughs here. Now, this is now a strategy RPG. Characters fight on grids, not under the isometric view, you can move the camera around. The point of every battle is to have Fleur sing to increase a variety of stats or buff your party. Music changes when she starts singing. Fortunately, you can turn her songs off if you dislike idle music like me. For every turn she gets, you can either intensify the effects or increase her range, cause everyone outside her range won't get any benefits. Now, Glace can do the same, and her songs usually last a little bit longer to make things more challenging. Characters fight normally, each has their own fairy unique to them, but they can equip one more. These fairies are interchangeable and can be found during some side quests. You can only equip characters with armor and accessories, but their weapons will always be the same, although some fairies can give them the option to fight with another weapon later on. Up to 5 characters can partake in battle besides Fleur, she will always be mandatory. After a few turns, they'll be able to Fairies, which is basically fusing with their main fairy, increasing their stats. Fairies will last until their fairy points deplete, and once that yellow bar down there fills up, anybody can execute a powerful area of effect all-out attack, which is cool. To be honest, it's a somewhat generic tactical battle system, but it's good, it gets the job done. My main problem, though, is that the game starts ridiculously easy, slowing getting ridiculously hard. You just get to a point where all enemies are 10 levels above you or more, as you can see right here, which means this is a grindfest, a big one. But it bothers me that the game kinda forces you to do every single side quest to get different fairies and level up, and it does take forever to level up. Every 1 or 2 battles the enemy will still out-level you, which makes it extremely frustrating. The RNG is really messed up. Characters often miss with 90% plus hit, and the enemies will always start moving towards you to gang up on you, every single one of them. Fortunately, there's an easy mode. If you barely grind, this easy mode will provide a less ridiculous challenge. Overall, it's a decent sequel, troublesome but enjoyable. However, the story is politicized. The translators took a lot of liberties and changed the characters' behavior and responses. Honestly, it almost ruined the game for me. Other than that, it's still a fun comedy. Is it better than its predecessor? Not really. I like strategy RPGs more, but I'm sticking with the first game. It wasn't fun to be fighting against the same guys in the evil corporation again. Plus, I'm not a fan of idol culture, and it's all over the place here. Finally, you fight Glace over and over again. She's in every single battle, even optional. So in conclusion, sure, it's worth a try, but don't expect too much out of it. It isn't mediocre, don't worry, it's a good game. It just has too many things that I personally disliked. Next is Digimon Survive. Yeah, you heard that right. You're shocked I'm covering a Digimon game. You'll be even more shocked to know I actually enjoyed it and finished it. But that's because this strategy RPG doesn't really feel like a Digimon game. I've played some of them before, didn't like them, couldn't get into any of them. This one is different, and that's why it got such a mixed reception from Digimon fans. Anyway, it follows the story of Takuma, a high school kid that goes on a camping trip organized by the teachers. Takuma, his closest friends, and other schoolmates encounter an ancient shrine. Upon accessing through a tunnel, they lose consciousness and then wake up in what seems to be a parallel world to them, except the world is inhabited by creatures, the Digimon. Some are evil and want to sacrifice Takuma and friends. Others will join them to help stop the evil ones. But overall, the plot centers around surviving in a half-ruined, half-deserted world they know nothing about, hence the name of the game. This is a very, and I mean a very interactive visual novel too. You won't just be reading tons of dialogue here, you'll be performing investigations in a sort of a point-and-click mechanic, talking to your friends and making choices to increase their bonds. This is a true role-playing game, where every decision matters. It has multiple endings, most of them being either bad or with harsh consequences. True ending can only be achieved by playing on New Game Plus, what nonsense. The story shines here, especially through a surprisingly amazing soundtrack, quite fitting and quite, well, not Digimon-like at all. I really think the music is one of the game's most outstanding features, and it's a really well written story. Sure, it's got power of friendship shenanigans, but also some stupidly dark moments that you just do not expect in a Digimon game. As a tactical RPG, it's generic but fun, it's enjoyable. You can set your party up at any time, even before battle, equipping your Digimon with up to 2 accessories for example, or giving them items you find during the exploration phase to increase a stat or 2. Combat plays in an isometric view where you'll control either your protagonist Digimon creatures or others you can recruit. The recruitment part is done a la Shin Megami Tensei, believe it or not. You can initiate negotiations with them and make choices that'll satisfy them, but this can only happen during free battles, not main story battles. In those, you usually have to kill every enemy to move on. Controls are fun, but the balance is weird. Easy mode is a joke, and normal mode is too easy. However, some bosses can one-shot you for no other reason than attacking you from the side or behind. You can also use that to your advantage as well, of course, and there are crappy elemental strengths and weaknesses. Also, the RNG can be way too off at times, so while still a good tactical combat, let's just say it isn't stellar and has its issues, but the RNG is better than the one in Fairy Fencer. As a Digimon game, obviously as the story progresses, your creatures will be able to evolve into a better creature and so on. It's honestly the best part of combat, transforming right from the start and overpower everybody. Your choices during dialogue with friends and story affect which creature they'll evolve into. So like I said, it's a very interactive game that mixes role-playing elements in their purest way. It's in plain sight the reason why it got a lot of hate. Visual novel, dark story, strategy RPG, 3 elements no Digimon fan will ever believe could create a game in the franchise. Well, I ain't a Digimon fan, which is why I played this with an open mind and ended up enjoying it a lot. Moving on to Ever Oasis. There's a lot, and I mean a heck of a lot to say about this game, but I'll be as concrete as I can. It's an action RPG developed by the creator of the Mana series. After quitting Square Enix, he went on to found the company Grezzo to develop this as a spiritual successor, and my god, he freaking nailed it. You play as either a guy or a girl on a quest to build and manage an oasis settlement in the middle of a desert. It's a bit of a post-apocalyptic world where chaos has beasts running rampant across the entire wastelands and ruins. It also balances story and gameplay pretty well. Basically, your job will be to invite travelers from all different races to reside in your oasis. This is done by talking to them, finding them, and or completing their requests. Most of them fetch quests that can be done quickly. Most residents can build up a store once recruited. Their customers will be other residents and these traveling owl creatures. You, however, need to constantly resupply these stores with materials. It's important to do that because if you don't, the strength of your oasis will drop and it'll start attracting chaos monsters. Also, the more you resupply your stores, the higher the buffs and the HP increase you'll receive when you go out exploring. It's needless to say that exploring is where you'll find materials and a lot of residents. Usually, you'll talk to them and they'll visit your oasis the next day. Up to 2 party members can travel with you, yes, even the store owners. Every character is specialized in a type of weapon and a unique ability. Therefore, monsters can be strong or weak against a specific type of weapon and so on. Unique abilities come into play a lot because they are indispensable to solving puzzles or advancing towards the next area in a dungeon. Often you'll have to teleport back to town to switch party members just to get the right guy with the right ability for that specific part. This is my one and only gripe with the game. Despite the fact that you can teleport back and forth instantly, it's annoying having to do it just to switch party members. Why can't I just switch them at will during exploration? But anyway, controls are great here and fighting is satisfying. Camera can be an issue, the joystick is responsive but the camera is controlled with the triggers. It ain't perfect, but for a 3DS game, it works as best as it can. And of course you can switch to any of your 3 active characters at will and fight with them. If they die, you can revive them by sharing life energy to them for a while. If all 3 die, you can revive the whole party 3 times. After that, it's back to the last save point or the Oasis. At home, you can synthesize equipment and items by having the right materials. There is a night and day cycle, and during the night, monsters change and are tougher. Finally, the goal of the game is to get rid of chaos for good and improve your Oasis as much as you can. There's more, but this is definitely the gist of it. This is a fantastic game, one of the best action RPGs on the 3DS. My compliments go to the developers. Finally, Lost Judgement. Yep, not an RPG, but I covered the first one in the previous video, so it makes sense I had to get this and review it. Alright, so since the first game was successful, Ryoga Gotoku Studio made a sequel, a direct one, so it is necessary to play Judgement first. 3 years have passed since its events, but Yagami and Kaito are still private detective and assistant. A sexual harassment case done in the subway lands on Saori's office, so she calls Yagami asking for help. He finds out this case seems connected to a couple of severe bullying cases that took place in the same high school. Don't be taken off by some of the high school settings. It turned me off at first, but it later picked up real good. So the story is a masterpiece here, all the way till the end. Gameplay wise though, there are some big up and downs. First, you'll be switching between 2 cities quite regularly, Ijincho and Kamurocho. Same ones as in Yakuza Like a Dragon actually. Encounters will occur in both cities, but like before, you can just walk around or far from them if you don't want to fight. Combat didn't really feel that much improved in terms of controls. It's a game that lacks an auto lock and you have to move around the camera yourself to punch somebody else. Fighting still feels both chaotic and sluggish depending on what you do. So yeah, combat is still fun, but it can be convoluted at times. Previously you had the tiger style and the crane style, now you have a third one called snake. It's based on the real Aikido style, basically used to counterattack, disarm and slam enemies to the ground. Once more, you'll get skill points from fights and all types of missions to increase HP or attack, or to learn new moves. I'm not sure why these many RPG elements were necessary, but whatever. Now, my biggest problem with this sequel is that my favorite type of mission is gone from the main story, the tailing missions. It was awesome to follow people without being discovered and having to hide when they looked around. There was only one tailing mission in the sequel, which I didn't record because it was just the damn tutorial. Others are in side quests, sure, but not a single one for the main story. What a disappointment. Drone missions are also gone from the main story, but I have no complaints since I never liked them in the first game. So in exchange for removing the tailing missions, stealth missions were now improved. There are a bunch of them per chapter where you need to get from point A to point B without being seen. You can distract enemies by tossing a coin or take them down by surprise. It's fun, but it's no replacement for the tailing missions. Running missions are more interactive now, still bound by quick-time events, but you and the people you're chasing have now an HP bar. Why? What's the point? So yeah, if you mess up too much, you lose HP and then you die. First-person investigations are also back, where you need to look for clues to trigger Yagami into saying something. Find the required clues and it's over. And thankfully, once again, there is no penalty when you mess up in showing evidence during interrogations or picking a wrong choice in dialogue. Finally, there's a new mechanic called climbing missions. You have to find a way into a building or to get from one place to another. And yes, you also have a completely unnecessary HP bar for this. Take too long and you start losing HP until it's game over. Overall, the game's still amazing, but the tailing missions are gone, the chasing missions are even more stressful, and the HP bar for them and the climbing is a chore. Music, graphics and pacing, however, are still wonderful. Graphics better than before. Oh, and you can also play as Saori for a couple of sexy missions. And like I said, story is untouchable, the best thing about the game. It's just that in terms of gameplay, I think it's inferior to its predecessor. Still a very, very recommended sequel. Alright guys, those were the games I needed to talk about. I'm still surprised that I actually enjoyed and finished a Digimon game. And honestly, I can't wait for Sea of Stars coming out this year. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe and share this video with your friends. See you next time!